this week's drive, we join a NASCAR traffic jam, fly karts at an airfield, go biking in Germany, and redefine first class. All this and more in this week's Drive. Formula One fans went wild in Michael Schumacher's hometown of Kerpen in Germany as the reigning world champion won the 2002 World Championship, his fifth, to equal the 44-year-old record of Argentina's late great Juan Manuel Fangio. Schumacher wrapped up the title by winning the French Grand Prix in dramatic fashion. He was trailing McLaren's Kimi Raikkonen when the young Finnish driver slid on oil dropped by a broken Toyota, allowing Schumacher through for his record-equaling win. And every soul in the northern Italian town of Maranello, home to Ferrari, huddled around television sets in bars and big screens in cinemas to watch the race. Afterwards, the town went crazy with joy. People stopped and listened as the now traditional bell ringing from the church rang out to celebrate Ferrari's latest victory. Fans were not disappointed as Schumi claimed his 8th victory out of 11 races so far this year to reach an untouchable lead of 62 points and take his 5th world title. Waving the red flags of Ferrari, the whole town took to the streets in celebration as Ferrari's number 1 became the first driver ever to win the title with 6 rounds still in hand. Fans from out of town marched to the Ferrari factory to wave their flags and have their photographs taken outside the hallowed building. Isn't Italian brio a wonderful thing? Any bets on this little guy's name? Fangio won the last of his 5 titles at the German Grand Prix in 1957 driving a Maserati when he was 46 years old. His Grand Prix career saw 51 starts, winning 24 races from 29 pole positions. And he was a late starter, being 39 years old when he took his first title. 10 years ago, and at the age of 80, the maestro was back behind the wheel in a Mercedes demonstration run. Afterwards, he met an up-and-coming young Mercedes sports car driver named Michael Schumacher. Michael has started 171 times and won 61 races from 46 pole positions. And he was 25 when he took his first title in 1994 and has claimed his 5th at 33. Back to Germany for DTM Deutsche Tourenwagen-Meisterschaft, or German touring car racing, at the Euro Speedway at Lausitz. After heavy rain the night before and drizzle throughout the qualifying session, the track was still fairly damp. Bernd Schneider, Mercedes, second in the qualifying race, made a textbook getaway to muscle his way up the inside of poleman and championship leader Laurent Aiello in his Audi. With the gap between the two static at 0.4 seconds, Aiello was content to pressure Schneider in the hopes that he would make a mistake. But when the mistake came, it was from the Audi pit crew. A problem with the left wheel kept him in the pits for 5 seconds too long, giving Schneider an unassailable lead. When Schneider pulled into the pit lane 1 lap later, only a similar error by his pit crew would threaten his lead, but it didn't happen. Schneider was stopped for less than 5 seconds, rejoining in 4th position behind temporary leader Patrick Huysman, Thomas Jaeger and Jean Alesi, all of whom had yet to stop. Schneider soon dispatched multiple Porsche Super Cup champion Huysman's Mercedes to retake a lead he was never to lose. Aiello, meanwhile, dropped behind Matthias Ekstrom's Opel V8 Astra and lost out to Mercedes driver Marcel Fassler to finish 4th. The entry list for DTM racing is filled with famous names, such as ex-Formula One ace Alesi, who finished 8th, Karl Wendlinger, who didn't finish at all, and former touring car champion Alain Menu of France, who came home 11th. It was Schneider's first victory since last September at the A1 ring, and only the 2nd win of the season for a Mercedes driver after Alesi's at Donington in England. Despite his victory, Schneider still lies 21 points behind Aiello with 4 rounds remaining. Despite its name, the tri-oval 1.5-mile Chicagoland track is in the US state of Illinois, and it hosted the recent Tropicana 400 NASCAR race. Kevin Harvick, who wasn't even on the radar screen for most of the race, used some smart pit strategy and track position to win his first event since claiming the win here last year. He drove to victory at an average speed of 136.825 miles an hour and had pitted out of sequence earlier in the race, which allowed him to stay on the track when the leaders pitted for the last time. He almost didn't make it though. He narrowly missed getting caught up in this prolonged incident just before mid-race, which brought out the yellow flags.
And down on the apron, guys.
Oh, can he save it? Oh, he's still out of shape. No, yeah, he goes finally. He blanked for a mile, but he finally made it.
Oh, behind him, too. Huck Strickland and Jerry Nadeau and Brett Bodine have gotten caught up in it. Oh, that's Jimmy Spencer, I'm sorry. That was still
During another caution period, and apparently getting a little bored, race leader Tony Stewart has a little fun at the expense of the pace car driver.
Tony's playing with Buster.
With just 20 laps to go, a final caution saw most drivers pit, but Harvick gambled on making the distance, and when the course went to full green, he was just ahead of Jeff Gordon. Tony Stewart was leading at the time and pitted for 2 tyres, but was unable to catch Harvick and defending NASCAR champion Gordon.
Couldn't get a run.
There's an old saying in motorsport, catching is one thing, passing is another, and so it was for Gordon. Harvick drove away to win by 0.8 seconds over Gordon. Stewart was third, followed by Jimmy Johnson and Kurt Busch. Harvick was so close on fuel that he ran dry on his victory lap after lighting up the rear tyres in a plume of smoke. The win takes him to 27th place in the championship, and midway through the series, he's earned just short of $2 million.
Children's organization, Kevin Harvick, has done it today at Chicagoland in the Tropicana.
We stay in the US and cross to Cleveland's Burke Lakefront Airport for the 9th of 20 Championship Auto Racing Teams, or CART, events. No sooner had the race started on the flat, featureless but bumpy runways than there was a tangle at the very first turn. The incident forced the retirements of Dominguez and Bell. Tora Takagi extracted himself from the pileup and headed back to the pits for a new nose cone and front wing. Trying to become the first driver to win 5 consecutive races, Cristiano D'Amata led the first 19 laps from pole position before electronic problems claimed his Toyota Lola. The series points leader struggled back to the pits and retired on lap 21. Patrick Carpentier scored his first career victory on a road course after leading for 66 of 115 laps in his Reynard Ford. He started from the front row and took the checkered flag by more than 17 seconds over veteran Michael Andretti. Canadian Paul Tracy finished third, followed by Kenny Brack of Sweden and Canadian Alex Tagliani. After the race, Christian Fittipaldi hitched a ride back to the pits with Tagliani. Fittipaldi's Lola Toyota expired 19 laps from the end. Despite failing to finish, D'Amata still leads the championship points standing by a clear 50 points over his countryman Bruno Junqueira. Carpentier is fourth behind Scotsman Dario Franchitti. The 7th of 8 rounds in the Outdoor Trials World Championship, the European, was held at Clermont-Ferrand in France. Adam Raga overcame the constant rain and slippery conditions to record a total of 71 penalty points for his 2 runs on Saturday's first day. That will be enough for a place on the podium, but he would play second fiddle to Lampkin and finished in 2nd place. England's Dougie Lampkin extended his lead at the top of the overall standings after finishing first on Saturday and third on Sunday. But the win was not enough to secure his 6th championship in a row. Lampkin, however, kept his mistakes to a minimum. His combined mark of 63 points was the only score on the day below 70.
39 seconds.
Japan's Takahisa Fujinami, who started the day 30 points behind Lampkin in the overall standings, took 3rd place on day 1, but kept his slim hopes of winning the world title alive by leading on day 2. Fujinami's combined 2nd day score of 38 was 10 less than the 48, which sealed 2nd place for Lampkin. Spain's Marc Frisia pipped Albert Capestany to third place on Sunday. His score of 55 points, just one better than his compatriots. For Capestany, it was a slight improvement from his sixth place finish on day one, but his chances of an overall second place for the year took a serious blow. After Fujinami's first place finish, Lamkin's lead stands at 32. It will now come down to the final round of the season in Motegi in Japan in September, where Lamkin will only need one seventh-place finish over the 2 days to guarantee his sixth title. Just one short of legendary Spanish trials rider Jordi Tarrés. Frenchman Olivier Jacques took pole position for the German Grand Prix at the Sachsenring. Jacques, riding a Yamaha, grabbed the first pole of his career in the last seconds of the session. His success marked the return to form of two-stroke 500s over the new, all-conquering 990cc four-strokes. Shinji Nakano backed up the two-stroke domination at the tight and twisting track by claiming second place on the grid. Four-strokes from both Honda and Yamaha have dominated the series since their inception at the beginning of the year. American John Hopkins was lucky to walk away uninjured from this high-speed off-track excursion. The Red Bull team will give up on their two-stroke Yamahas next year and move to Moriwaki Honda four-strokes. Italian Max Biaggi led the four-stroke brigade in qualifying, upstaging the apparently omnipotent Hondas and also his own teammate Carlos Checa. Alex Barros, the season's hardest charging two-stroke rider thus far, completed the front row on his Honda. Toru Okawa had a huge crash in qualifying for the British Grand Prix at Donington just a week before, but managed a podium. In Germany, he upstaged his world champion teammate, Valentino Rossi, by just 1/1000th of a second. Rossi also crashed in practice for the British round, but pulled off a pole position and a win, despite riding with a broken thumb. In the 250cc qualifying, where all the bikes are two-strokes, it was Spaniard Fonzi Nieto who seized pole position ahead of Italy's Marco Melandri, with Roberto Locatelli in third, all three on Italian Aprilia machines. Nieto's pole-setting time was exactly 1 second slower than Jacques' best 500cc lap. Italian Roberto Rolfo completed the 250cc front row with his Honda. Olivier Jacques started a MotoGP race from pole position for the first time in his career, but the Frenchman lost his place at the front before the first corner. Despite making a slow start, Barros went from fourth on the grid to second by the end of the first lap and overtook leader Toru Okawa on lap 7. Jacques also passed the Japanese as the two-stroke engines flourished on the tight circuit. On lap 11, Sete Gibernau ran into the back of reigning 250cc champion Daijiro Kato. Yukio Kagayama then collided with his teammate, and both of the Suzuki riders followed Kato out of the race. While Okawa was dropping down the field, his Repsol Honda teammate Valentino Rossi was making his way towards the front of the race. Rossi, who'd won 7 of the season's 8 races going into the weekend, passed Barros for first place on lap 19, and it looked as though the 23-year-old would seal victory number 8. But Rossi misjudged a corner with 6 laps to go, allowing Barros and Jacques to move into first and second. Rossi fell back to third, but with just 4 laps left, Barros' bike slid out from under him and hit Jacques' back wheel. Both riders slid into the gravel and their races ended as Rossi inherited the lead, just as he had done the week before in Britain when Checa crashed out. The Italian took his 7th consecutive win, Biaggi took second place and Okawa finished third. Rossi holds a 96-point lead over Okawa in the championship with 7 races remaining. In the 250 race, standings leader Melandri benefited from a massive slice of luck to claim his 6th win of the season. The Italian lost control on lap 23 while leading and crashed out, but rain forced the stewards to red flag the race, and the positions at the end of the previous lap were taken as the final result. Melandri took the win from championship rival Nieto, with Sebastian Porto in third. France's Arnaud Vincent led all 27 laps of the 125cc race and held off the challenge of Alex De Angelis of San Marino to seal victory. Home favourite German Steve Jenkner grabbed third place after beating reigning world champion Manuel Poggiali, also of San Marino, to the finish line in a photo finish. Poggiali's lead in the defence of his title is now down to just 7 points over Vincent. MotoGP organisers and representatives of the People's Republic of China have signed a deal to stage motorcycle Grand Prix racing in 2004 at a brand new circuit to be built near the centuries-old Great Wall of China. Carmelo Ezpeleta, chief executive of Dorna Sports, the Spanish company that manages the MotoGP World Championships, met Alice Pei, chair of the Panther Cooperation, and Li Changshuan, the governor of Yanjing province, to exchange contracts. Chinese investors said the circuit, to be built 40 kilometres from Beijing, would be able to accommodate 500,000 spectators. The area where the circuit will be built is currently undeveloped farmland, but investors are confident they'll be ready by 2003, when it has to be officially approved by MotoGP track inspectors. They said that work on the circuit was expected to begin within 8 months, with a huge workforce of 20,000. The audience of about 1 billion people in China has been very attractive to the promoters of various types of motorsport, their sponsors and advertisers. The blossoming Chinese domestic car industry is expected to help create a big interest in motor racing, and the building of a motorcycle-specific track is seen as a major coup on behalf of two-wheeled sports promoters. Investors also said they expected the venue would be one of the biggest in the world. The nearby Great Wall of China, already a major tourist drawcard, is said to be the only man-made structure visible from space. Perhaps the addition of a massive motorsport complex right next door will also be seen by astronauts. More than 60 years after the exclusive Maybach brand vanished from the wealthy streets of Europe, a brand new Maybach was shipped to the US on board the luxury liner, the QE2. The car was then flown by helicopter to a pier in Manhattan. From there, police escorted it to Wall Street for its debut in an area synonymous with wealth. Under police escort, the car was driven straight into a media launch where journalists were waiting for their first look at the world's most expensive production line car. And although the plunging US economy has tamed many of the market's highest flyers, Daimler Chrysler thinks the rarity and exclusivity of the new Maybach will make the car a hot item for the richest of the rich. There are rumours of firm orders from fabulously wealthy car enthusiasts in the Middle East and Southeast Asia. Professor Jürgen Hibbert, the man responsible for the Maybach, defended the $350,000 car.
Yeah, we have no problem at all, because we cannot make our decisions on the actual climate. We have a long-range planning. We are looking for the long range, and this is a car that will not stay just for a year, but maybe for 10 years. And therefore, it's not a discussion of the actual situation. We have lengthily discussed with potential customers, and they told us they will take the car whatever the situation around is. These are people that can afford a lot, and they are very familiar with the situation. Therefore, from our perspective, there's no problem at all.
The company will build 1,000 handmade Maybachs each year, beginning in 2003. The car is considered to be on a par with the new Rolls-Royce, which BMW will start selling early next year when it acquires the English brand from Volkswagen. Daimler Chrysler expect the US to yield about 40% of Maybach sales, Europe 25%, Asia 19%, and the Gulf states the remaining 16%. The Maybach accelerates from 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in just 5.4 seconds and goes from 60 to 120 in only 6.5. The car, built to order, is a quantum leap up from the Mercedes-Benz S-Class so loved by politicians and company directors the world over. Maybach comes with reclining rear seats with telescoping footrests, 2 flat-screen televisions and surround sound for each passenger. A DVD player, TV receiver and dual internet cordless phones are standard. The panoramic roof has 2 6mm thick panes of glass with a sliding liner between them. An electroluminescent membrane gives off a diffused light. In daylight it's transparent, but if it's switched off, the liquid crystals lose their transparency and the glass becomes opaque, filtering the daylight. sterling silver champagne goblets, designed just for Maybach, are held by clips which automatically grip the base of the glass when it's put down, but let go when the glass is lifted. Alex Taylor, who writes about the motor industry for Fortune magazine, disagrees that buyers are insulated from tough economic times.
It seems like a quintessential bubble economy car that's come on the market about 3 years after its natural time. And I think it'll face very difficult times for the next couple of years. They claim that their buyers are relatively insulated from the downturn in the stock market, but in addition to the stock market, you've got a slow-growing economy and also a very difficult social and political environment, which I think will make it difficult for them to sell a car that costs $360,000 and is 20 feet long.
Maybach's new 12-cylinder engine develops 405 kilowatts, the highest of any series production car engine in the world. The highest quality materials, including over 100 items of exotic wood trim, adorn the cabin, all aimed at giving a new definition to first class. We go now to Havana, capital of Cuba, a country caught in an automotive time warp. After 4 decades of a US trade embargo, the streets of the communist-ruled country have become what may well be the largest living museum of antique cars in the world. Havana is an unlikely place for a tribute to US car manufacturers, but there's a surprising private car museum that sees 30,000 visitors a year who each pay the $1 entrance fee. Curator-director Eduardo Maceo recognizes Cuba's cars and their unique place in history.
People like us are concerned that Cuba maintain its wide collection of antique cars because it's the only country in the whole world where so many antique cars are in daily use.
The variety is surprising. A Ford from the 20s, a Pontiac from 1958, a Willys from 1952, and a DeSoto from 1949, all of them lovingly tended. Chevrolet, Packard, Rolls-Royce and Dodge. Rolls-Royce? Perhaps one of the rare US-built models made between 1921 and 1931. Wherever you look, there are hundreds of pieces of what is thought of as four-wheeled art in the rest of the world, all over Cuba. And for those who thought that the Mercedes-Benz SLK's folding metal roof was a recent innovation, here's how Ford treated the idea over 40 years ago. Havana's car museum may not be flashy, but it's recognition of the fact that these cars have all but disappeared in the rest of the world. When a vehicle can't easily be replaced or repaired, the owner tends to take really good care of it. And so has it been for Emilio Gonzalez Santana's 1956 Chevy.
Well, in reality, the car has been carefully maintained for many years since it was bought in 1956. And the previous owner took very good care of it, and I have also.
A great number of classics are in daily use as private taxis by their owners, who see them as blessings and moneymakers in a country with poor public transport. Cubans have become adept at keeping their golden oldies on the road, as cab driver Carlos Alberto Chamzó explains.
This is from the year 1949, a 49 DeSoto with the original engine. The only thing that has been changed is the gearbox, but everything else is original. When something breaks, we have to replace it with pieces from Russian cars, and therefore, little by little, we are improving it.
The Cuban government has announced that it will open a museum next year showcasing the 1960 American-made mint green Chevy used by Cuba's communist icon, Argentina's Ernesto Che Guevara. We'll end on that historic note, but so you stay on track and up to speed, make sure you catch next week's Drive.